Hi, Rolo. Sent you a mail with regard to jealousy in March. Did you get a chance to read it, or maybe my mail was stupid? No, I don't. I read every single one. Whether or not I can actually respond to you is a different story. I can talk about jealousy if you'd like, just briefly. I kind of want to get into today's topic is actually relationship myths, but I guess that's sort of in the same vein. As far as jealousy is concerned, I've mentioned this. Let's say I have tried to mention this on a few occasions on Access Vegas. The problem with me getting into really kind of cerebral topics on Access Vegas is sometimes the girls are really interested in it, but I hate to feel like I'm monologuing and hogging up all the time. Whereas here I can go in and I can elaborate a little bit more. But what I've said in the past and what I've written about in the past when it comes to jealousy is there's two different kinds of jealousy. There's the male form of jealousy and there's a female form of jealousy. And you have to make a distinction between jealousy and envy. Okay, so what is envy? Envy, this is the way I categorize it. I'm sure there's a distinction in the definitions here as well, but envy is a want or coveting something that you don't have, right? Jealousy is guarding something that you already do have or you think you already have. So when people say, oh, you're jealous of my car, no, you're not jealous, you're envious of that car. You wish you had that car, right? So envy is like the green monster, right? Envy is for things that you don't have, whereas jealousy is for things and guarding things and suspecting things, as far as, regards to men and women, of things that you do have. So jealousy, by the way, is not just limited to interpersonal relationships. You can be jealous of something like somebody taking something of yours or jealousy, and maybe they legally did it. So there's a fine line between jealousy when it comes to being jealous and being suspicious of say infidelity. That's definitely a form of jealousy, and that's really, I think, what you're getting at. So envy is something entirely different. I think there needs to be a distinction between those two. George, I started your question. I'll get to you in just a second. So when we talk about jealousy with respect to men, jealousy for men is a form of mate guarding. And really for women, it's a form of mate guarding too, but they're approaching that jealousy, or they're feeling that feeling of jealousy due to different, say, prompts or stimulus, right? So for guys, jealousy is generally you're jealous of the chick that left you to go get with the other guy, or you're jealous or you're suspicious, let's just say, and we need to mate guard as a result of being suspicious about the fidelity of your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, your woman, right? Women, same thing. Women tend to feel jealousy when other, I've seen studies by Marty Hazelton, and I want to say, I probably dig it up. I know I have it in my bookmarks on Twitter, but there have been studies of women when they are in their ovulatory phase, when they're in their proliferative phase. Thank you very much. I have to be clear about that now, because I was talking about menstrual cycles and how they affect ovulatory shift on Access Vegas, and I put up a post, or I put up I think a very brief, maybe a minute and a half, if that, short. And of course, women just go, "Oh, he doesn't know anything about menstrual cycles," and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, Jesus. So let me be a little bit more clear here. The proliferative phase is the phase that's right around, if it's a 28-day cycle, it usually happens right around day 10 to day 12. Sometimes it could stretch out to day 14, depends on the woman. But usually it's when the egg is dropping or it's about to drop. It's when women are at their most fertile. Well, women can smell that on other women. And I don't mean that literally. I mean, maybe, but certainly figuratively. When women see sexual ornamentation, when their voice drops and you get that kind of husky voice, there's been plenty of studies on it. I'll tell you, it's funny, is when you get into the physical studies and the physical experimentation that Dr. Marty Hazelton did, going on 30 years ago, no one ever has a problem with trying to replicate, sexy voice dynamic or whatever. They only have a problem with defining what's a masculine face, what's a chiseled jawline, and what's more masculine features as opposed to what's more feminine features. That's where those are the hairs that get split. So, we can't replicate it, so I guess it's not true. Well, there's dozens of other experiments. There's dozens of other factors and aspects that go along with ovulatory shift. That's apparently nobody wants to focus on those. Nobody has said anything about sexual ornamentation. No one wants to talk about hoop earrings. No one wants to talk about the red dress, right? Um, and so when women understand that other women are sort of in that phase, that's when they start to mate guard, and that's when they feel feelings of jealousy. Okay. So oh, is this it? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get to you here in a second, George. I got you. Did I not answer that already? I thought I had answered your question already. Dude, I will get to you. Don't worry. Trust me. I've got you started. You're coming up next. It would help if you even at 199 super chat would at least highlight that for me. Thanks. Um, so when it comes to jealousy, men tend to feel jealousy because they're mate guarding, women too, but they're mate guarding from poachers, from other women taking their man or wanting to like in some way like sort of lock that guy down. So for women, jealousy becomes more about like competition anxiety. Whereas for men, it's making sure that the babies are his. So when men feel jealousy, it's usually rooted and it stems from uh, mate guarding, a mate guarding instinct, but also that mate guarding instinct is rooted in wanting to ascertain paternity, making sure that the baby that comes out of that woman is my baby. Because even though, and yes, I know we still have DNA tests, even though we're not allowed to actually have DNA tests, although maybe someday, um, for men to figure out whether the kid is his kids or it's not his kids, that's something that's sort of rooted in the male psyche. So when men get jealous or they get suspicious or they think, hey Rolo, I think my girlfriend is cheating on me. Should I snoop through her phone? That impetus, that want to do that, to spy on her, keep some sort of surveillance, put a air tag on her car to see where she goes, that kind of stuff, to make sure that she's not cheating on you. That feeling of like the suspiciousness. First off, that's your instincts, and that's time for a gut check. First of all, but second of all, the reason you're feeling that way is because you essentially want to ensure that the woman that you're with, should there be any offspring, assuming there isn't already, that are coming out of that woman are your kids. And we never fucking talk about that. We never get into that. And I think what's funny is like, we'll talk about like, oh, well, jealousy is so unbecoming and it's so juvenile and it means you're insecure. No, it doesn't mean you're insecure whatsoever. It means you have a functioning fucking brain and your I don't know, hypothalamus or wherever it's stemming from, right? Wherever that feeling of jealousy is stemming from. There's a reason why men get jealous, and there was a evolutionary benefit for guys to get jealous. Guys who got jealous actually outbred the guys who didn't get jealous. You are the result of 200,000 years of evolution of guys who got jealous and guarded their mates. That's why you still feel it today in 2024. And there's nothing fucking insecure about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's only wrong when it gets out of control, when it gets unrealistic, when it's like way over the top. But there's a reason why you feel jealousy as a guy, and it's usually because there are things on your peripheral awareness that are inconsistent, and it is your subconscious that is trying to alert you, saying, hey, something's going on over here. I need pay attention. And that's when you get those feelings like, oh, I think she's cheating on me, and I think maybe I want to snoop through her phone, whatever else. Now, there's reasons why you shouldn't do that, and there's reasons why you probably could and should do that. But the function of jealousy is an evolutionary function. So anybody telling you jealousy means you're insecure and you're just an insecure man. No, it doesn't. It means you're everything's firing on all 8 cylinders. That's what it means. So, and ladies, when you feel jealousy, it's usually because you're trying to ensure your meal ticket. You're ensuring your long-term security. So when there's infidelity, and I'm just putting it in those terms, jealousy can exist for other things than infidelity, but that's what we tend to like focus on. But when we talk about jealousy, it's usually because there's suspicion, there's suspicious minds, right? But so when women cheat, when they fuck other guys, right? The men are, what's their first priority is, did you like it? Did you get off? Did you have a bigger? Where'd you do it? Did you do it in the bed? Did you do it in the shower? Did you do it in the kitchen? Did you do it like, where did it happen? The details, like the visceral details. And the reason why guys get into that and they they torture themselves with those visions is because they want to know that if this woman's, uterus is filled with a baby, they want to know that baby's not mine. That baby is mine, whatever it is. You want to know why guys lose their shit when they discover that they've been cuckolded for most of their lives? That's why. That's why you want to know why there's such hesitation to tell fathers who aren't actually the biological fathers that the wife actually cheated on them, like, 13, 20 some odd years ago, when they finally discover through DNA testing that the kids that have some sort of, genetic disease or something like that, and he turns out he doesn't have it, it's because he's not actually the dad, right? And they're in most states, at least in the United States anyways, they're required by law not to tell the biological father that those kids, because they're afraid. I mean, it goes back to the Duluth model of feminism, right? They're afraid that the guy's going to lose his shit, and he's either going to kill him or kill the wife or the mother of someone else's kids, or himself, or they're too scared that something violent, something hostile could happen, and so therefore they don't say that, and they leave it up to the mother to be the one to confess it, right? So, or maybe it's the kids that actually tell dad, mom wasn't always as faithful as you thought she was, right? And somebody sent me a story not too long ago, and it was about this I think it was a 96-year-old dude, and his wife was like 94, and he ended up divorcing her for him because she admitted that she cheated on him like something like 60 years ago. He's like, fucking, I'm out. 96 years. I mean, how many more years does the guy have, right? But the dude was like, fuck it, I'm out. You that's adultery, right? So it was interesting that even like at that late in the game, like you would think, oh man, that was so long ago, who cares, right? And I think that you'll see a lot of women will try to tell men that because they're jealous, that they're insecure, or it's toxic masculinity. Like jealousy is like a form of toxic masculinity. Like, no, women feel jealousy too. We don't say, oh, you're insecure. No, we call a woman who's jealous being prudent. We say she's like protecting her investments. Right? The first thing a woman says when a guy cheats on is she asks, are you in love with her? Because she's worried that she's going to lose out on her investment. There's ROI involved in a marriage or a relationship where certainly where there's kids involved, or the potential for kids are involved. So when a woman gets jealous, it's usually because she's jealous of a woman coming in, another woman coming in and sort of like swooping in on her investment in this guy. So when I talk about like, I've said this before a couple times, is one of the things I'm going to quote Rich Cooper here, right? And he's right about this, but I'm only halfway on board with this. I think it's just not incomplete. I don't think he's wrong. But when he says, women don't care about men's struggles, correct. They wait at the finish line and they fuck the winners. Also correct, but there are too many. There are not enough winners for women who are waiting at the finish line. So women at some point in their life, usually when they're in their 20s or when they're earlier on, it's really sort of this cost versus benefit proposition for them. So they got to find a guy with prospects. They got to find a guy who's going to be a winner, or it looks like he's a good bet, right? This is going to be a winning horse at some point. And the problem is what they're betting their sexual capital, and they're betting their agency. And so what they do is they say, okay, I'm going to be a ride or die girl with this guy. He looks like he's going to be Grant Cardone, right? He's going to be Gary Vee. Gary Vee is a great illustration of this, because Gary Vee like got with his wife when he was like in his 20s, and she was like more or less ride or die, right? Then suddenly he becomes like super successful. He becomes a winner, right? He passes the checkered flag, and boy, but he's already attached to his now ex-wife, right? And the worst fear that women have, the existential fear that women have, is investing in a guy who actually is a winner, who just dumps them off at the finish line and picks up the cheerleader and continues on down the road, right? So all of the investment and all of the sexual capital that she invested in that guy that she can never go back and get, because you're only going to be 23 once, dear. And so now you're 33, or maybe you're 43, and he takes up with his hot secretary, his quote unquote trophy bride or trophy wife. And all of that investment is down the drain. If you want to know why alimony and divorce exist, it's because of that fear. Well, today anyways, it's because of that risk of loss of investment. It's sunk cost is what it ends up being, or was opportunity cost. Because instead of investing herself in Gary Vee, she could have spread it out. She could have said, okay, maybe he clearly had potential, but maybe there's other guys who also have potential who would have stuck it out with her as well. But Gary Vee is Gary Vee, right? I don't know if you guys have seen his current girlfriend, but she's a piece of ass. And like, there's no way on planet Earth a guy that looks like Gary Vee has access to top shelf like that. unless he's a winner, unless he passes the finish line, right? And guess what? His new girlfriend, I know, I think she was his personal assistant or something like that, but the new girlfriend is exactly what Rich Cooper says. It's the woman waiting at the finish line, and she don't give two flying fucks about the chick that's in the car with them at the same time. She's waiting to fuck the winner at the finish line. And so when women have to invest their sexual energy and their sexual capital in a guy who has prospects or has potential, that's always something that's why women like don't want to get married. That's why they will always say, make sure you go to college, get your bag, girl, have some insurance. You want to know why like a very expensive wedding ring it's an insurance policy, man. It's like, oh, I can just hawk this and at least I'll be okay for a little while. That's literally that's what it's come down to. It's taken the place of a dowry from the old days, but essentially what is it? Well, it's if this guy fucks up, if this guy falls off, if this guy dies, well, at least you got a diamond ring and then you'll be okay enough to sort of get yourself back on your feet. Right? So really women marry a lifestyle. They don't marry a dude. And when that lifestyle is a potential lifestyle in the future, and then the guy falls off after he becomes successful and she's not around anymore, that's the worst fear that women have. And so that's why jealousy for women is rooted in feelings. That's why women will say, oh, he's having an emotional affair. They never fucked. They're having an emotional affair. That's very, like, no guy says, oh, my wife and this other dude was having an emotional affair. The guys don't think that. Like, are you fucking your personal trainer? Well, then I'm going to have to take act. Then I'm going to get jealous. Then something's going to happen, right? But men didn't come up with the concept of, oh, an emotional infidelity. No, women came up with emotional infidelity because that's what's important to them. Because if the guy's not locked in, if he's not in love, he's not emotionally invested in that woman, then when her sexual capital declines and his sexual capital increases later in life, because that's would you like me to show you the graph again? I'll be happy to show it to you. Here we go. So when women get to about the 30-year mark, well, now 30-year, I would have made that later actually now, but the average age of first marriage for the United States. And by the way, it's way later for a lot of people in Europe and Eastern Europe. Right around 30 for women and 31 or 32 for men, right? So men are in their ascent when it comes to the things that make them maximally attractive or their peak potential, assuming they maximize that potential. Not saying they're all like that. Yes, there are actually losers, right? But women are on their decline right around 30 and men are on their ascent right around 30. So I'm not saying women are all, it's over for you. It's, you're going to hit the wall. That's not what I'm saying. But your descent, your decay has definitely begun. And that's when women start thinking about that. Do you want to know why that's the first average age of first marriage? That's why, because on some level of consciousness, women realize that. So when it comes to jealousy, think about this. I'll show you this right here one more time. So if women between the ages of like say 21, 24, 26, somewhere in there, you don't see too much talk about emotional affairs. Like women in that age, assuming they're attractive and assuming they're like, maximizing their own potential as well. The conversations about like emotional, they might have got with a guy who's a quote unquote narcissist, because every guy that breaks up with a woman is automatically a narcissist these days, which I find very entertaining whenever we're on Access Vegas, because every girl that ever broke up with a guy, that guy is you're a narcissist. God forbid I ever break up with my wife, because suddenly I'll become a narcissist, right? Actual narcissism, like clinical narcissism, is like exceptionally rare. I think it's like something like 5% or 10% of the population. I don't even know what it is, but it's like, it's not everybody is a fucking narcissist. I know it seems like they should be, but ladies, they're really not. Okay. You fucked up. He fucked up. Move on. All right. That doesn't mean that you have some sort of clinical problem. And yet another thing, guys don't go, well, we broke up. Why? Well, because she was a narcissist. No, she was cheating on me. I got to break up, right? Or, things were working out. Like the guys don't make up shit like that. We don't have like, what is maybe you guys should say, maybe I should ask the chat here. It's like, what do you think is the most common reason guys say that they broke up with their girl? Because every time we ask somebody, even on Fresh and Fit, they'll ask the same thing. And they'll get the same answer. It doesn't matter whether it's Las Vegas or it's in Miami. It's like, oh, he was a narcissist. Is it 3%, John? I think it is. I think it might be. Is it 3%? Something like that. Cluster B personality. Well, cluster B personalities. That's another. That's something that's a little bit dicey. One of the one of the downsides of the internet, I think, is that everybody wants to self-prescribe other people, right? There was when I was in college, and I first it was in just my basic stuff for psychology, psych 101. Like, they introduce you to the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, right? And so what it is it's the diagnosis of certain like personality disorders or psychological disorders and things like that. And one of the first caveats that they always tell you when they're finally introducing you and showing you how you really have to take a class on how to read the DSM. Like, there's actually there's actually a class about the DSM. And one of the things they tell you in the very beginning is like, okay, you're going to read this, and the first thing you're going to think of is, my mom has, but she's bipolar, or my brother is, he's a Machiavellian sociopath, because look, he fits all of this description. Like, people will automatically, especially when they first start realizing how to define a psychological disorder or personality disorder and those things, they will automatically prescribe it to like somebody that they know. In fact, I had to be very careful of that too, because like when I first became aware of borderline personality disorder, and I was reading all of the symptoms, like the things that it's characterized by, like the disorder's characterized by. First thing I think of is my old BPD girlfriend, right? From when I was in my mid-20s. I'm like, oh my God. And I got chills down my spine, because I feel like I dodged a bullet. And I had to be real careful, because I had to back it up and go, okay, maybe she's not really borderline personality disorder. And then little by little, and more I got into like cluster B and stuff like that, then I began to understand that, yeah, she probably would fit the bill for BPD. Cluster B is what? Borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and there's one more. I forget the other one. There's another one. There's actually 4. It's a cluster of 4 personality disorders that make cluster B personalities. So